Okay, so policy tiers were released in Calico open source 3.29 to help address some challenges involved in managing Kubernetes network policies. So what are policy tiers and how does it help? Well, first of all, policy tiers are Kubernetes custom resources. You can configure them using Kubernetes role-based access control to specify which users or pipelines are able to deploy policies to certain tiers. Now, with that in mind, let's go to an example. Now, tiers are customizable. What I have here is a common pattern, and let's look at what I'm trying to achieve with this policy model. So to start off, in the security tier, I like to have my cluster-wide guardrail. Let's say, for example, I want to restrict internet access for workloads in this cluster based on a threat feed. I could have such a policy in the security tier. That would be a cluster-wide guardrail. Similarly, if I have multiple tenants, consumers, or customers deploying pods or workloads to the same cluster, and if I want to achieve isolation between those workloads, I would have my tenant isolation policies in the security tier as well. Now, in the platform tier, I like to have policies for shared infrastructure or shared platform components such as kubedns. All the workloads in the cluster will have to be able to access kubedns for name lookup. So policies for such components will reside in this tier. Now, with that taken care of, when it comes to my developers, they only have to implement policies for application service to service communication. So I'm simplifying things for them. Now, in certain cases, my developers may implement namespace isolation policies, which will reside in the namespace isolation tier. These policies basically create a perimeter around the namespace where all communication inside the namespace is allowed, but anything ingressing or egressing the namespace has to be permitted. And in certain cases, this could be adequate. But if you're operating in regulated industries or if you have sensitive workloads in the cluster, you may need workload isolation policies, which basically creates a micro perimeter around the workload where every egress and ingress flow has to be explicitly permitted. Such policies will be in the workload isolation tier. Now, in the default tier, I would have policies that would enforce a default deny posture. And I could have as many default deny policies. I could have a default deny per namespace. I could have a default deny per tenant, or even a default deny at a global scope. Now, this is important because in most cases, users tend to implement policies after their clusters have attained a certain critical mass, in which case they are already in production. So when you're rolling out policies in live environments, it is crucial that you're able to do so progressively in a manner that doesn't impact the workloads in the cluster. And that's where having the ability to implement default denies either on a, let's say, per workload basis or a per namespace basis or per tenant basis becomes important. Okay. So hopefully this was informative. And if you want to learn more about how policy tiers can help with your rollout of Kubernetes network policies, check the link in this post. Thanks for watching.